everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Album. I have a mini album to show you and I'm going to do the tutorial, so I'll do the walkthrough real quick. This is using the paper called Into the Wild from Echo Park Paper Company. The page construction is very simple. I used the same page construction for all 5 pages. It really goes together very quickly. It takes a little longer to decorate, but now, if you follow what I've got, it's easy and it goes fairly quickly. So it is 5 signatures. It measures 9 by 5. Is that correct? Yep, 9 by 5 with a 2-inch spine. I did use the lay flat cover method. And there's still room in it, although it might look a little chunky. There's lots of room still for pictures. So inside, I've got, it's actually a diagonal, sort of a diagonal pocket. We've got a nice size photo mat there and a little tuck spot with a smaller than normal. It's not 3 by 4. I cut it down. I just love the coloring of this teal on here. I do have some of the cut aparts. I did not pick up the sticker collection. I don't know why. I did pick up ephemera, but I didn't pick up stickers. This is a cut apart from the collection. I do get 2 of each page. On this small little flap, I did make a belly band with a long insert in there. I figured you could write your 10 favorite places to camp, where you're going. You could just journal. You could whatever you want to do. So anyhow, there's a magnet here and a magnet here. And so then this will open up like this. Room to journal on here. There's a cut apart, a large size photo mat in there. And you can actually put a photo right on here. So again, I use the same page construction. It is a hidden photo mat, hidden pocket page. It's open at the top. So again, you get a long photo mat to put extra pictures. And then there's the back of the first page. Room to put smaller pictures. There's an element from the ephemera. So this will open like this. You could put a photo there. Could have put a photo there. One there. Cut apart photos on here, or just stick them in the pocket, whatever you want to do. So that'll close, and that'll close. So see, it's the same page construction. We do change it up a little bit. This is a photo mat there. I did leave it open and included just a little cut apart right there. This one, so instead of this having a 4 by 4 cut apart attached to the side, this one's attached to the top. So that'll go like there. And then there is my page for hiking, room here to journal, room to put a photo that's open on the bottom. And then this will open like that. So you can put your photo there. And there's photo mats and cut aparts. This was a cut apart that I cut down a little bit, put on some black cardstock, left it open at the top so you can add a little piece of ephemera. That opens like that and that closes. There's room to put a photo, journaling card there. Now, if you wanted to, you could make all of these belly bands like this and add journaling cards. I probably should have only got 2 pieces of the coordinating cardstock. I should have gotten 4, and I would have done that with all of the pockets. Here's room to put a small photo, and then that'll open up a little larger photo. There's a photo mat and another photo mat. And I'm sorry, that's a journaling card. This I glued down, and then I used a piece of chipboard to raise it up a little. So that goes like that. This little 2-inch flap will open like that. I just add that for a little bit of fun. Cut this from the paper. So here I added a pocket, and I realized I did not give instructions for that in the tutorial. It was 2 inches by 9.5 and scored it on 3 sides and put it down. So instead of having a cut apart attached here, I just have these tucked in the pocket, and that'll open. And then this will open. There is room for a photo there and there. So these will come out, and they help keep that pocket closed. Here is the last page. This one will open like that. I also didn't give instructions because to me this was part of decorating. I really just gave instructions on how to construct the album and make the pages. And that'll open like that. It says Happy Campers at the top, room there for a photo. And this page has another little tuck spot and room for 1, 2, 3, 4 cut aparts and photo mats. So it's pretty simple to construct. It's a lot of fun to decorate. So if you'd like to use the same paper, just decorate it the exact same way I did. So let me show you how to make this album. Okay, we are going to start with the cover. For the cover, you'll need 2 pieces of chipboard that are 5 by 9, and you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock that are 7 by 11. I've already put double-sided adhesive on the cardstock, and I'm going to apply it onto the, onto the chipboard, put it onto the cardstock. I have these spacers. These are 1-inch spacers that I'll use just to get a 1-inch all around it. You could make some out of chipboard. Now I have a piece of cardstock that is 5 by 9, and the chipboard is 5 by 11, and the chipboard is 2 by 9. This will make our spine. Just trying to get that last piece of the adhesive backing on. And so now I will just apply this, and then I will go burnish it and make sure that adhesive is sticking to the cover. This is a great way of making a cover. You don't have any bubbles left. Now, if you don't have the double-sided adhesive, you can always use glue and know that you're going to cover this whole thing with some decorative paper. So I'm taking my bone folder and trying to find where the edge of that chipboard is. I'm folding and burnishing on all 4 sides. I do 2 at the same time. And what I find at the end is I have rectangles on my spine piece that I'm going to just cut out. I'm using just a X-Acto knife and cutting these corners off. And I'll do the same, cutting the corners off of the square pieces left over on the covers. Folding the book. I like to do things sort of assembly line style, especially if I'm making what is actually a simple mini album. It just makes the whole process go quicker. So again, I'm cutting off these corners. You could just use scissors to do it instead of the X-Acto knife. Okay, when I'm cutting these corners off, I'm going to switch to scissors in a second, but I'm sort of cutting them at an angle. I'm mitering the cuts so that way there won't be any overhang when we go to fold everything down. Okay, so all done taking the corners off. I will go ahead and grab my glue, and I'm using the Designer Dries Clear glue from the Art Glitter Company. I put a line of glue right next to the chipboard to help loosen the fibers and have it fold a little bit. And then I zigzag go around the perimeter of that little tab. And then I'll take my bone folder and burnish. Now this is the, no, not this one. Go ahead and do, there's glue on my bone folder. Make sure, get it off. Oh, I also feel like I need to, there's a little there was a little piece of my bone folder that was causing a sort of a scratch in the paper, so I just filed it off. So once I get all of this side done, there was a little piece of the backing stuck under the tapes, so I took that off. Okay, so there is one of the covers completely done. I'll go ahead and really speed through this one, and then we'll work on the spine. Oh, I love doing things in fast motion. If only I could get my housework done this way. Anyhow, after I get the second cover done, I'm going to work on the spine. And the spine we treat a little differently. We just are going to put glue on the top and bottom. I'll wipe off that little glue. But not on the sides. The sides, the wings, we'll call them. So I'll get that part done. And now I'll grab my scoreboard because it's a nice straight surface. We know we've got right angles. I'm going to put just a line of double-sided adhesive on each of the wings. And this is on the front of the wings, not on the back. Not on the side where the chipboard shows. And I will burnish, make sure I get that nice edge where the chipboard is. And then I'll peel off the backing of that tape. And I will add glue. So now the glue, I'm going to try to keep about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of where the chipboard is. You don't want to have too much glue here. And then you can just attach the cover. I'll burnish, turn it over, and burnish real well. And then I will do the other cover. Sometimes your scoreboard will not have enough room on it, so you might have to move the cover that you already put on over a little bit. But it still is a great surface to do this on just because it'll help keep things nice and straight. And then I'll put on that second piece. It is not right up against the edge. I leave a tiny little gap, a 32nd of an inch gap. I've changed it as I've practiced with these. My gap has changed. I go through my scraps and I want to put another piece of paper on the inside, and that will help secure everything and make everything real. I just keep everything down and hide it so you don't see any of the chipboard showing. So this piece is probably about 4 inches. Remember, my spine is 2 inches. So I add glue because I want to make sure this stays down. You know, this is the most important part of the construction of the book is the spine and the hinge. I don't want anything to come loose. So you notice there was a lot of glue on there. I wanted to make sure it stayed down real well. So I'll burnish real well and make sure that glue is distributed. And then I will start folding up one of the covers and make sure that where the fold is, it's moves, and there's some movement to it. So that is the cover of the book. Okay, so for the hinge, we need a piece that's 8.5 by 10. We're going to score it with the 10-inch side at the top at 2, 2.5, 3, 3 3/8, 3 7/8, 4 3/8, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/8, 6 5/8, 7 1/8, 7.5, 8, 8.5. Of course, you can make a screenshot if you wanted to of those score lines. Okay, so now let's turn the paper upside down, and we're going to fold and burnish on every hinge. So you'll have 2 1/2-inch pieces. You'll fold and burnish in the center of those. And then we'll go to the next one. So basically you're going to skip 2 lines and score the next. Skip, skip, score, skip, skip, score until you've gotten all of these done. I do have another video where I go over in greater detail making this hinge, and I will link that in the description box so you can go refer to that. And then I just take my fingers and pull the paper together and just with my fingers fold the hinges up. Then I'll pull them all together and use my bone folder and burnish. I'm just trying to get the paper to have a memory so it knows where it's supposed to be. I'll push the hinges another direction and use my bone folder and burnish. Now I'll turn the paper upside down and I will put glue on the inside of the hinges. I just zigzag across and put a bead of glue as close to the top as possible. A couple times I go over the edge, no big deal, just wipe it up. And then again, I take my fingers and just burnish with my fingers. I'll go ahead and burnish later with my bone folder. Zigzag and line. So I'll go ahead and do that to all 5 of these pieces. Again, the hinge is important because it makes up the main component of the book that keeps everything together. The pages, the flaps now will be on the pages. It just is really important. So it looks like a lot of glue, but I want to make sure that it sticks together. So again, I'll just burnish with my fingers, and then I will take my bone folder and burnish all the way across. Now, as you see, some glue seeped out and I didn't clean it up in time. Make sure if any glue seeps out of the edges, you clean it up. I mean, it's going to be on the hinge and you just don't want that to be unsightly. All right, now I'm going to take my hinge and I'll dry fit it and figure out where I want to put it in my book. In this case, I'm just centering it. So there's probably about 3/16, maybe less, maybe about 1/4 of an inch from the end of the chipboard on the cover to where the first hinge will be. I knew that this was going to be a little bit tight, so I mitered the corner of the hinges, top and bottom. All right, now I'm going to add glue to the hinge. It's where the hinges come together. This is all flipped over. Then I zigzag in between those glue lines. I'm trying to work fairly quickly here because I don't want the glue to dry. This is really important. Then I place this down and I make sure it's straight. I think the first time I put it down, it wasn't really straight. Of course, you notice I didn't put any glue on the hinges. Now I'm just going to take my fingers and I'm basically going to go from the top to the middle and from the bottom to the middle to distribute the glue. And each time I go, I will move a hinge over to the side. So I start in the middle and then go to one on the right and then one on the left and one on the right, one on the left, till I've gotten all of the hinges put down. Now I think here I didn't like the placement of it. Knowing the glue was still wet, I could reapply it. It just got a little wonky. So I just pulled it up before everything was dry and just started again. Move the hinge over. Every time you move the hinge over, it sort of closes the gap. You just have to do this a couple of times and you see what I mean. Once I've gotten it where I want, I will take my bone folder and burnish the heck out of it to make sure this hinge is going to stay down. And then I'm going to take one of the wings and flip it up, add glue to it, put it right against the edge of where the hinge is, and burnish. Once I burnish, I'm going to take my bone folder and I will go in that channel where the spine and the cover come together. And then I'll do that for the other side as well. So I'm just going to burnish it. I'll peel this back and add glue. My glue's seeping out. I'm just going to leave that there. It's okay. Zigzag. Make sure there's enough glue in there. Distribute that little dot of glue and burnish. Just trying to push this down. Burnish, that lets the fibers of the paper sort of loosen up and get a good stick. It distributes the glue under the paper. Okay, and there is our cover. I'm going to burnish again. It helps let the hinges know that they can move. It helps make them a little more nimble. And there we go. There's the cover. All right, let's make the base pages. I'm using this purple cardstock just so it's easier to see on camera, but use whatever your base color is. In my case, I used black. You'll need 5 pieces, and I'm using a 65-pound weight. You can use 65-pound, 67, 80. I wouldn't use anything over 90 pounds, 100 at the most, but um, this is 65 pound. So what we're first going to do is score, and again, it's 12 by 12, score at 4 5/8 all the way down the length of the paper. And then score at 9 1/4, again, all the way down the length of the paper. Then we're going to rotate. What's at the top is going to go to the left. So just rotate one time and then score at 8 1/2. Then we're going to rotate one more time. So what's at the top will go over to the left. And this time we're going to score just up to this score line. It was the 8 1/2 score line. So we're going to score at 2 1/4, just up to that score line. And we're going to also score at 7 7/8, just up to that score line. And then we'll rotate one more time. So what's at the top is now at the left. And we're going to score up to this score line, that one we just made, and we'll score at 3. So what we have, let's see if this will illustrate it better. There's our 2 main score lines. There's the 8 1/2 score line. And then we have these pieces. We're going to cut the outside bottom rectangles. So we're going to cut on this score line and this score line. So let's take some scissors and cut. So here, I want to make sure you can see the score line. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit. So here I'm going to cut up to that main score line that goes all the way down the paper. And then I'm going to cut on the outer score line. So there is one rectangle off. And here there's outer score lines we're going to cut on that. Okay, so I've removed those. Let me move those out of the way. And then we're going to miter in 5 places. So this is going to be a pocket. So we're going to miter all these flaps on the pocket. So there's 4. This one, so we've got the score line that makes an X. We're going to go from this corner to the other corner. And here we're going to cut this. So there is our 5 score lines. Now we're going to turn this over. So the smaller flap is on the left-hand side, the larger's on the right. This is going to make a pocket. This is going to make the page so it is a pocket page. So let's fold and burnish on our score lines. We'll fold this. These 2 flaps we're going to fold under. To make our pocket. This flap will fold to the right. And then I'm going to turn this over just to make it easy. This flap's going to go up. And that'll go over to the right. I'm going to turn this over again so we have our pocket. So here's a flap. Here's going to be our pocket. And this will be our piece that goes into our spine. It's going to be glued at the bottom, but opened at the top. And this part, I'm sorry, on our hinge, this part's going to go into our hinge. We're also going to add a flap to give us some extra room to add photos. Okay, now I'm going to continue with the black cardstock to show you how it's put together. So we'll need a piece that's 5 by 8.5. We're going to put that in our scoreboard and we're going to score that at 1/2 inch. This is going to create the large flap we're going to add to our page. I'll go ahead and miter the corners. Now we're going to fold and burnish that score line, and then we're going to add that to the page. We haven't glued anything on the page yet. So we're going to put it on the right-hand side. The pocket's going to be in the center of these 3 pieces. So we'll add glue to that little flap. And glue this to the right-hand side of the page. It's just a little bit smaller than that main page. And then after we get that down, we're going to go ahead and glue the pockets. So go ahead, make sure that the pockets will fit, dry fit it before you glue everything down. And then we'll just put glue on the tabs of the pockets and burnish it and distribute the glue. So that folds in nice. That small flap folds in nice. We'll go ahead and burnish those a couple of times. And then we'll take a little glue, and I'm sorry I'm off frame here, but we'll take glue to that bottom tab, fold over the back piece. I'm going to burnish it from this side as well. And there is how you make your page. So we've got the flaps in the front, and then we'll go ahead and add these into the book. So with the open part facing the left, I'm starting from the last hinge. I'm starting at the last page. I'll add glue just about halfway up on both sides of the hinge and just slide up our page. Make sure it's even top and bottom, side to side, and go ahead and use your bone folder and burnish on where we just added the glue. And then when you add your consecutive pages, you're going to make sure that they're all lined up with this first page. So there we go. So I'll add glue onto the hinge. Again, I'm keeping it on the top portion of the hinge. Just slide that in. It's easy because it's not a tube, it's more just open on the top. And I probably didn't need to miter the hinge, but it's habit. And burnish. So we'll put the rest of the pages in the same way. And so we'll get all the pages in. Incidentally, if you are making these for a craft fair, you can make these pages assembly style. You know, just cut sets of 5, so you could cut 4 sets of 5, so 20 pages, and get it all done. All right, let's make the front and back inside pockets. So we'll start with a piece of cardstock 5 7/8 by 8.5. You're going to take this and score on all 4 sides at 1/2 inch. Then we're going to cut it in half at 4 1/4. So it's 8.5, so cut it 4 1/4. And then measure up. We're going to put it so the longer side's at the top. So measure up 1 inch from the bottom and then 4 inches over from the right side. And cut, I'm just using my scissors to cut from each mark, one mark to the other to make diagonal cut. And of course we do it the reverse way on the other side. And then you can go ahead and miter the corners. And this makes sort of an angle pocket for the front inside cover and the back inside cover. When you're adding your pattern paper, you can use that little piece that came off of it to help get the right angle. Go ahead and fold and burnish on your 1/2 inch tabs and add that on the inside front cover over to the left hand side, and then on the inside back cover over to the right hand side. Of course, you're going to line it up with the very bottom of the covers. And it makes a quick and easy pocket, easy to do assembly line again if you're making several of these books at once. I do add tape to the bottom tab just to make sure if I don't have a full piece of paper that whatever slides in the pocket doesn't get hung up. And here's the cutting guide for the pattern paper. If you'd like, you can take a screenshot, but I'll go over it in detail so you could write it down also. So again, if you're doing assembly line, it's easy just to cut all of these at once and figure out placement. So for the front cover, you can layer, but the bottom layers, or if you're not going to layer, will be 4 7/8 by 8 7/8. So you'll need 4 of those for the front and back outside and inside covers. If you layer, then just make the next layer 3/8 or 1/4 of an inch smaller than the one on the bottom. Then for the large flaps, there's 10 of them because it's 5 pages, so you have front and back. You'll need 10 pieces of pattern paper that are 4 1/4 by 8 3/8. For the back of the pocket page, you'll need 5 pieces that are 4 1/2 by 8 3/8. For the small flap, you'll need 10 that are 2 5/8 by 8 3/8. For the pockets, you'll need 5 pieces that are 4 1/2 by 8 3/8. To cover the inside pockets, you'll need 5 pieces that are 4 1/2 by at least 5 1/2. Double check that when you're cutting, because you can use maybe 2 6-inch pieces and it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. Yeah, it's way you can conserve paper, or if you have a lot of paper, don't worry about it. And then for the inside covers for the pocket, you'll start with 2 pieces that are 3 5/8 by 4 3/4, and then again cut it down at a diagonal. So here I'm showing you, I'm taking my cutting guide and I'm going to put papers together. Of course, you have to double check your orientation, but this is how I'm going to cut several at once. First, I cut it down to 8 3/8, and then I'll cut it down to 4 1/4 or 4 1/2, or whatever. You could probably get 2 4 1/4 and then a couple of the 2 5/8 out of one paper. And of course, you can use the bottom piece you cut off. Just again, watch the orientation. So I do all this cutting. I look at my paper and figure out what designs, what patterns I like best, and cut until I get the correct amount of each size. All right, so I've cut all the paper, and now I want to show you what I do with it. I just arbitrarily, to some extent, place it where I think I want to put it. Now, I don't glue it, but I do take my ATG gun, or you could use a temporary adhesive tape runner and just glue it down. Now that way it's movable, and if I don't like if I had 2 yellows in a row, or if I didn't like how that matched with that, then I could move them. Do I want these 2 there? I'm not sure. I'll wait till I'm done. I did use some solids in the back behind the pocket. I left this branding strip on it, and this is only 8 1/4 tall, even though this page could be long. This piece could be longer, but you won't see it. So I didn't mind cutting it short. So I've got this piece here, and then it's replicated there. I could take this and put it on top here. So whatever looks good to you. So if I put that there, then I have these 2 matching. So I don't necessarily need them to match. I'm okay with this in here. So you open it and you see that pattern duplicated inside here. I don't know that I'll keep this. What was this one? Could I do that? No, because I don't like these patterns together. So I will continue to refine it, go through each page. Now, before I complete that, I'll show you how I add more zest to this. So I've cut my cut aparts out. So I cut all the 4x6s, the 4x4s, and the 3x4s. I've also cut out several different sizes of cardstock so I can make flaps. Now on this one, I couldn't have a flap that goes this way, but I could have a flap that goes up and down, so I could do it like that. So the first size for the 4x6 is 6 5/8 by 4 1/8. For the 4x4s, you'll need a piece 4 5/8 by 4x8. And then for the smaller ones, 4 5/8 by 3 1/8. That again is assuming, I'm trying to find one that goes, so you could do it either this way, or you could do it this way and have it, a flap go like this. Now, let's say I don't like this one. I could use this side on the back. So let me score these. So again, this is 4 5/8 by 3 1/8. I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. I'll go ahead and do the 4x4 one, the 4 5/8 by 4 1/8. And then you can miter the corners. You could use magnets on this if you want. Sometimes with a small book, it's not necessarily. So again, if you don't like this, I might use this for the front and this for the back, if that matches with the page I'm doing, or that on the back. The other thing is, for instance, one like this, the perimeter of it, it has that wood grain, so I can use that as a photo mat. So that's 4x4. I cut this 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and I can add this to a page. Let's go here where there's the brown, and put that there as a photo mat, and maybe take something like that and put it over there just to have some space in there. So you could do something like that with some of these 4x4 cut up, or the other size cut aparts, if you don't want to use them. You could use the 4x6 ones. They'll fit perfectly fine here, but some of these I might just leave that way. So we are going to figure out where we're going to put the cut aparts. And the way that I'll do that is figure out what's going to coordinate. So this does coordinate with this to some extent. I mean, do I like that? I do like this, but I like the Let's Sleep Under the Stars towards the end of the book, because I might do sleeping. The mountains are calling. That doesn't necessarily go there. Camper's gonna camp. That would be okay, but I really like that somewhere over here to coordinate with that color. So anyhow, you'll see at the end or at the walkthrough what I've decided as far as what will match. That does match. So what I would do with this one, I'm going to put that down before I put the pattern paper down so I can use a magnet. And so I can put it, so I might put it here, put a magnet on the underside of there. And so this will open like this, that'll open like that, and then that'll open, oops, like that. So go through and decide where you want your cut aparts, where you want your paper, and then when you've done and you put your magnets down, then we'll go through and do some final decorating. I'm going to make the cover. I'll show you how I do it real quick. I like to layer the cover. So I cut some plain of the colored coordinating colors, and this is 4 7/8 by 8 7/8. Then I cut this, so I cut this a little bit smaller. This is 4 3/4 by about 8 3/4. But I decided I want to add a different pattern to the bottom of this. So just to make sure that it all is the same size, since I didn't cut it at the same time. If I cut it at the same time, then it'll be the same size. but I'm going to put this to the side and the bottom because it just looks better if everything is, uh, it all matches. It looks better if it's all the same size. And then I'll turn it over and take my scissors and cut it along the edge. And that way I'm guaranteed that'll be the right size. So then I had two of these cut aparts because I had two of the pattern paper. Actually, let me go ahead and glue this on and I'll talk to you about this. The element on the front, the backpack with the shoes and the map, and there's a little compass, I think will be our focal point. So in order to accentuate it, what I've done is out of one of the pieces, I fussy cut around it. I left the map down and I fussy cut around the backpack with the camping sleeping bag, the sneakers, and the compass. I raised them up. Can you see that they're raised? You really can't, just a little bit on dimensionals. I put that on some white cardstock. I had cut this down a little bit. Put it on white cardstock and then put it on this orange. And I like having this extra paper on the bottom. It just seems to break up all of that pattern paper. So I'm going to glue this. And I can center it on the page. If I didn't have this on the bottom, I might have gone a little more to the top and then try to find something else to put on the bottom. And then I do have this. I just used my tab punch and punched that just to put it to that side. Just another element to it. I'm going to put it on this side because we've got all this going on there. And it's still pretty simple, but it will work for my cover. And then all I need to do is glue that on. And that's what I'll do. Okay, and I'll show you a couple of final details. So we have hidden photo mats that go into the top loading pages. So you can just add pattern paper to it. I just cut them 8.5 by 4, cover this with pattern paper 3 7/8 by 8 3/8, and I'll take a tab punch and just simply fold it and glue it at the top, or you could use some cut apart or elements from the ephemera, or even just a piece of ribbon and staple it to the top, whatever you want to do for that. But you'll need 5 of those for the pages. And then there was a longer walkthrough at the front, but I'll just show you and tell you a couple of sizes. So this is 4 1/4 by 8.5. I have that in the front and back of the book. And then I made photo mats just based on whatever my paper was, whatever I had left as far as the pattern paper. Of course, if I had a 3 by 4 cut apart, I would cut this 3 and 3 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, or whatever size you want. And then I just continue to make elements to fit. This little belly band, the photo mat in there, or journaling spot, I guess, is 2.5 by 8. This little piece is 1 1/4, and I cut it oh, this was the flap. So the belly band I cut 3 3/4 by 1 1/4 and scored it 1/2 inch on each side and added pattern paper. And that's just an element from the collection. This I backed on some dark cardstock, black cardstock. There's another cut apart. Oh, and so inside each of the 5 pockets, this is 4 1/4 by 8. That'll go in like that, and that'll go like that. And then whatever I had, I would either cut it 1/4 inch smaller or 1/2 inch smaller. These I did use some white cardstock just to make photo spots. course, I have magnet in there, just a cut apart. I put a cut apart here, and I could go either way. Go like that to break it up, or the other way. There's one that goes to the top. I fussy cut black cardstock to put on there and made that a photo spot. And of course, you can put your photo underneath where it says hike. Used a cut apart as an accent to this page. That was the 4x4 cut apart that I put the white cardstock on and then cut a piece of pattern paper to put on there, just to make it look interesting even before you get your photos on. These are the 2x2 cut aparts. This one, instead of course you saw this in the walkthrough, instead of having a magnet, I just put the 2 cut aparts there. And then we get to the back, and I decorated this with just a small strip of paper, made a little tuck spot for this element from the ephemera, and I put that from the ephemera on there. Again, I didn't have the stickers, so the stickers would have added more to the collection. And that's what I have for you today. This is the paper collection Into the Wild from Echo Park, and it is another easy to make mini album. Check out my Let's Make a Mini Album series. The beginning videos are very simple, shows you the very basics of making a mini album, and as we go through the series, there's more elements and more details added to each one, along with having different sizes. Thank you so much for watching, and have a fabulous day.